force. We have to come to a place in Congress where it is no longer a political issue, but we see it as an existential issue for the country. If we don't have avenues for people to come here legally to work or to build a home here, I'm going to be really crude right now. We're not going to have anybody around to wipe our asses.
I'm just the cleaning lady.
Oh, yeah, that's really, that's the quiet part being said out loud. That's really how they feel. They need a voter base. They need somebody to wipe their asses. Jasmine Crockett says, well, they're not, we ain't picking no crops. So I guess that's that's your job. All you people that come from other countries, you're going to pick crops. No, so, like, how do you get, like, white people are racist, Jasmine Crockett says, but the only thing you illegals are going to do is pick crops. You ain't never going to do nothing else. I mean, future Democrat voter base, allegedly, guys, people are coming to this country illegal. Be careful. You get what you pay for. That's all I'm saying. You come in here illegally, you come in here illegal, you're going to have to work for those people. You're going to be their slaves. That's really, I'm laughing because that's the mindset of all Democrats, that when these illegals come in, they're going to be withholding to the fact that they're not here legally. And so if they jump through all the little fiery hoops and do all the little things that we want you to do, vote for us. We'll give you little handouts and you can stay in the country. We won't boot you out. You'll never be anything else. So you'll be just little minuscule people that kind of do what we say because we hand you all these little things, and you'll be making sure that we stay in power so we can. That is liberation through oppression, by the way. This is how the Democrats think. This is how they want you to come up in this world, So anyways, I want to move on to something a little more controversial other than racist Democrats and their rhetoric. There was a Chinese operative, 19-year-old dude. I mean, I'm not even going to attempt to say his name. He's just some Chinese dude. No, his parents did not drop a fork down the stairs to give him his name. Don't you dare think that. That is wrong. You better not think like that. That is racist. Anyways, it was a slinky. That's wrong. I'm sorry. Check this out. So here is, let's get this a little closer. Don't pay any attention to my stupid transgender microphone. I don't know what's happening here. The LGBTQ microphone, guys. Eyes up here. This is one of the few images I could find of this dude. But it was a 19-year-old student named Haxiang Honda Suzuki something. Haoxaing. I mean, dude, come on. But his last name is Gayo. Looks to be Jao. Hexio Gayo. I don't know. So this is the only image I could find of the dude so far. But his claim to fame actually spawns from some illegal voting he was allegedly in trouble for, and he was called out on it because he kind of like he somehow or another he turned himself in by accident. I've got an article here that kind of talks about that. Here it is right here. It's last week. It was discovered that 19-year-old Honda Suzuki Gayo, a Chinese student. I shouldn't do Honda Suzuki like that because Honda at least. Honda makes good three-wheelers. But anyways, the University of Michigan, he was a student there, and he was charged in October with illegally voting, this is alleged. So anyways, YouTube, in the 2024 general election, they had managed to evade sentencing by a second passport to return to China. It's kind of strange. And there's been records of his allegiance to the Chinese Communist Party. Also there's an accomplice as well. They've got a picture of her, but she actually works in a collegial biological lab study type thing. And so in his stories, or he changes stories around when he's caught with this pathogen. But the pathogen itself it's designed. It's like a fungus, and it's designed to target crops. It can, I guess, mess up crops where they don't grow, and then whatever's does get processed, if it's not properly dealt with, it can cause severe illnesses and physical harm that's lasting, like liver problems and other real serious health issues. But just a little backstory of the dude before we get to the accomplice of his possible girlfriend at the time, which to me looks more like somebody from an operative of a Chinese honeypot. But anyways. That's just me in my opinion. But in September 2025, the Michigan Secretary of State was asked by the Committee on the House Administrations of the American Confidence and Elections, looking ahead to the 2024 elections. Well, this guy voted. He was actually not. He was an illegal citizen. He wasn't supposed to vote. By the way, this is Jocelyn Benson's, her thing, and she's definitely involved in some seriously wild stuff when it comes to legitimate elections in her area. I mean, that's a whole other video. But moving along, here is 34-year-old Zhenyoung Liu. I don't think. Anyways, a female Chinese research a fellow in molecular, cellular, and development biology department at the University of Michigan, was arrested by the federal agents and charged with attempting to smuggle biological pathogens into the United States. So these two people working in cahoots together, and both of them have praised allegiance to the Chinese Communist Party, which they have to, by the way. All of these people, there is nobody that comes out of China. Well, I won't say nobody, but I would say that the ones that snuck up to the Darien Gap probably have a more likelihood of being decent Chinese people, as far as their immigration to the United States and the allegiance to the United States, and the ones that come here legally. That's the real deal. If you're allowed to leave China, there are certain stipulations that you have to go by. And so when you go to China, you are to report daily to an operative of the Chinese Communist Party. I think it's daily, if I'm not mistaken. I could be. Some of that might be a little miscued, but there's quite a bit of information that you are required to pass on to the Chinese Communist Party caseworker that you're assigned to when you come to the United States, and especially if you're involved in any kind of jobs with intelligence, like anything with nuclear or scientific or collegial. You are to pass on things. You're supposed to report on things. You're supposed to monitor other fellow Chinese people and report on their status to make sure that they're falling in line. It even got so brazen that the Chinese Communist Party started opening up underground police forces operating in the United States as Chinese operative police people that have the authority given to them by the Communist Party, and the people who understand what the Communist Party does to their family members over in China if you don't fall in line and do what you're said to do. What's the deal? And by the way, a lot of these people that come from China that are allowed to come to the United States are seriously indoctrinated in the Communist Party's ways. So in other words, they are willing subjects. These people aren't, they're when they come here, they are willing, unless, pretty much. That's the thing. They are against the Western. They're against the United States. They're against all that, or the Eastern to them, I guess, however you want to look at it. But anyways, the substance classified as a potential agricultural terrorism weapon capable of causing billions of dollars in damage to food and crops, and it also has issues with your body too. Fusarium graminearum, a deadly fungus in the United States throughout the Detroit. It was brought into the United States in the Detroit metropolitan area on July 27th. The deadly fungus causes head blight, a disease affecting wheat, barley, maize, and rice, resulting in billions of dollars worth of economic losses worldwide each year, according to the federal officials. And its toxins also cause vomiting, liver damage, reproductive defects in humans and in livestock. The release says. So in other words, this would affect not only just your food supply, but it would affect your food supply, but it has a chain reaction effect when it comes to the livestock that would consume this wheat and different things for feed. So that's an attack on the United States. Anybody knows when you deal with any kind of warfare, you first need to knock out infrastructure. And, using kinetic weapons tends to tip off people. So they go, we're under attack. But if you use soft core methods like burning down food processing plants, any food that is brought to the food processing plants is tainted by some kind of biological pathogen so that it's not consumable. And there's a gray area in between all that. Who did it, why did they do it, especially when you look at the complicity when it comes to investigations from three-letter agencies that have been leaderships held by people who have an alliance other than the United States. I'd say FBI people and CIA who have their own people they answer to. And it's not, so that's a dangerous subject, because that means that these criminals are allowed to operate. Yes, inside, by the way, in the article it reads where there's they've been able to sneak other items through that they haven't caught yet. So there's other biological pathogens that have been brought out. And we don't know exactly what the end results that's going to be. But, that's a real deal. And, if you really think about it, like Reedley, California, Chris Thompson and I have been going back and forth. Chris Thompson on YouTube. He's got a YouTube channel, talks about stuff. The Reedley, California, a year or so ago, there was an illegal biological lab that was discovered by accident because there was a rather prudent and code enforcement officer who noticed a water hose that was left connected to a spigot, which is by code. There's a violation, so they knock on the door. They try to find the resident so that they can issue a citation that's payable to the California people so that they can use that money to facilitate more crazy mess. But anyways, that's another video. Well, once she determined that this place was definitely weird, that there's something that wasn't right, there was more authorities that were called to this Reedley, California's illegal biological lab. And I don't know if you remember when I did some videos on this, but it was found that there was quite a bit of I'll read to you real quick here, because it was let me see if I can find it while we're kind of hanging out here. Give me a second. Please hang with me, because it's pretty interesting. Chris Thompson sent me this article, and I let's see if I can find it here. What the hell? You know what? This Twitter thing just doesn't work. Here it is right here. There it is. Okay. It says the Select Committee on the CCP. So there was an investigation brought forth, but I have not heard the end of this. I do recall when this was all going down, after the findings of what they found, says the illegal biological lab was run. This is in Reedley, California. This was found. This is one of probably many that have not been discovered yet. By the way, you could bet that there's some sort of control by a pharmaceutical company for whatever reason, allegedly. But the illegal biolab was run by a PRC citizen who was wanted and fugitive from Canada with a $330 million Canadian dollar judgment against him for stealing American intellectual property. And the PRC citizen was top official at the PRC state-controlled company and had links to military, civil, fusion entities. And it received millions of dollars in unexplained payments from PRC banks. Pretty wild. This was while running the illegal biolab. So it was being funded through a strange bank, okay? The illegal biolab contained thousands of samples of labeled and unlabeled encoded potential pathogens, including HIV, malaria, tuberculosis, and COVID. The illegal biolab also contained a freezer-labeled Ebola, which contained unlabeled sealed silver bags consistent with how the lab stored high-risk biological materials like Ebola. Is a select agent with the lethality rate between 25 and 90%. I guess that'd be the non-livable rate. But the biolab contained nearly thousands of transgenic mice, meaning probably humanized mice or something along the lines of where they were designed for testing for certain pathogens to see how they would react to those, to see how they would kind of react to humans or whatever the subject might be. Genetically engineered to mimic the human immune system. See, that's what we're just talking about. Lab workers said that the mice were designed to catch and carry the COVID-19 virus. After local officials were discovered, the lab sought help from the CDC and others, and the CDC refused to test any of the samples. And so this is where I sort of said, well, Chris, I remember all this, but I don't recall any efforts after the cleanup and what they did, because there was a lot of biological waste and infected tools and lab equipment that needed to be dealt with on a biological level, and the FBI and the CDC and other people would not touch it. They weren't even going to deal with it. And this guy that was running this thing was a Chinese operative that had been in this. And there's stuff not in this article that we're talked about. How this lab in Reedley, California, that was discovered a couple years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, that this guy that was running this was running these labs in Canada. And he was bouncing around from state to state as he was exposed and things were found out. He would dip out and start a new process. This lab was not designed for any of these kind of pathogens to be contained properly. And it was close to a relatively large body of water, according to somebody I know who lived near the area, by the way. Andrew Bosniak, who I did some YouTubing with back in the day. And I'm just bringing this back up because here we are with this. And Xi Jinping's daughter, is hanging out in the United States doing stuff, and she hasn't been deported yet. And right now we're looking at Chinese operatives who have bought farmland that aren't doing any farming, by the way. They just put up a bunch of surveillance towers and antennas, and allowed to, by the way. You can say that, the Chinese people, well, they're being allowed to do this because not only does this information they gather benefit them, but they sell this information off to other entities that are non-governmental, which utilize this to be able to run a stronghold and run both ends of a war. More than likely, allegedly. I'm just kind of thinking in between the lines. That's just me using some insight. But that's about it. So we're going to wrap it up, guys. I just wanted to get out there. I've got a video of, what is this? I want to show you. Okay, so real quickly, I'll wrap this up. Dude, so Trump is apparently MIA for a few days, and it's got the media all messed up.
I have to ask who's actually making the decisions. Who is actually running the country? Everybody wants to say Joe Biden wasn't running the country. I know for a fact he not only read his presidential daily brief, he was engaged in the meeting, he asked questions, and he gave directives. Donald Trump won't even bother to read the iPad.
Well, especially when the
What if I to read the iPad? By the way, here's the same chick right here. This is wild, dude. The same chick. I think I've skipped past it, but where's she at? Oh my goodness. Right here. I think this. Yeah, here we go. Here you go. Here. Look. Here we go.
So we finished
It's a
the
wrap.
first episode.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap. I need a drink. I need a drink. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. And we gonna eat. We gonna drink. We gonna party. We gonna eat. We gonna drink. And we gonna be back tomorrow.
Meanwhile, in the back, they're like working.
Right there, the people in the back, the white people standing way in the back, the nobodies, the ones that she's laughing at them because she gets to claim the fame for spewing her racist rhetoric and her misinformation out to the public. Is all put together by the people who actually do all the work. She gets in there and sits her big ass up there on her chair and makes up a bunch of shit that makes no sense at all right here sitting there. And then as soon as it's over with,
Donald Trump won't even bother to read the.
As soon as it's over with, it's time to get a drink. Got to get a drink. And she could grow some hair, it looks like. She could grow some hair. She ain't got to shave her head bald so we can all look at her funny. Ugly. She ugly. I don't know. These people like that just piss me the hell off. I just say it. I don't know. Anyways, guys, take it easy. I'm out.